Hi, guys. It is Kelly Ackroyd here. And I just wanted to check in with everyone today because I've heard from a few of my clients and students today, and apparently they have caught wind that we are actually, a lot of people know we're going into Mercury retrograde, and people have such weird energy around Mercury retrograde. But so that's one thing I want to address today. And then another thing I want to address today is that Mercury is not the only planet that is going to be retrograde. As a matter of fact, for the next like 9 to 10 days, depending on where you live in the world, you will be experiencing 7 different astral bodies in a retrograde phase. So I know a lot of people hear retrograde and they get really, I don't even know, like unnerved by it or freaked out by it. And I don't know if it's just because I'm a Sagittarius and I'm optimistic by nature, but I have always loved when the planets go retrograde because it is an opportunity for us to do our healing work. Okay, so for Mercury retrograde, Mercury has a lot to do with how we communicate. And so when Mercury is retrograde, it actually gives us an opportunity to look at our communication styles, look at what is working for us, and look at what's really not working so well that could use a little bit of improvement, right? And when things are in a retrograde state, it makes it really easy to be able to look back, get the gifts and lessons, and then be able to move forward with grace and ease. Now, some people don't like having their mischief shown to them. And I think those are probably the people who don't like it when Mercury is retrograde, right? Because they don't want to look at all the ways that they screw up in their communication style with other people, right? But the only way that we can actually improve and get better and learn how to become heartfelt, authentic communicators is by actually stopping every now and then and looking back and looking at, okay, so, how is my communication style working for me? Do I feel like I'm able to totally like just sink down into my heart and be myself and just express my love and light with reckless abandon, right? Or am I always worried about what other people think, or feel like I have to prove myself, or I'm afraid of looking stupid, or, all of the nonsense that we make up about our communicating. So this is a period for us to really be able to take that on. And because there's going to be 7 planets retrograde for the next 9 or 10 days, this is really amplifying our ability to uncover our authentic communication. And it's also going to allow us to get in there and recognize what fears or doubts or limiting beliefs we may be harboring that are getting in the way of us being able to communicate our authentic truth. It's very interesting. Like some people, like they really need things to change in their relationship, but for whatever reason, they aren't able to just sit down with their partner and be like, hey, we got some issues in our relationship that we really need to sit down and confront together. But it's funny because whenever they hear that word, we have to confront something, they think they're going to confront each other and it's going to be combative and explosive and ugly and crazy and dumb and hurtful and a waste of time, right? But that's only because they're communicating from a very inauthentic place, right? They're communicating from a place of fear or scarcity or whatever it may be for them, right? Like if I'm afraid that I'm unlovable. And if I communicate my truth to you, then I might find out that I really am unlovable and you'll leave, right? Some of the craziest things that we human beings make up about why we can't just communicate our authentic truth. But being able to dive in and recognize what are those fears and doubts and limiting beliefs and where did they come from? Like, what was the story of origin? Most of those origin stories that we've made up about why it's not safe for us to communicate authentically come from our childhood, usually before we were 6 years old. So isn't it interesting that we're choosing to take the advice of a 5 or 6-year-old about how it is to effectively communicate instead of stepping into our highest self and communicating from there? But these are all things that we're going to really be able to dive into over the next 9 to 10 days. And it's really, really important for us to be able to master how to communicate authentically, communicate our truth from a place of peace and love and enlightenment, right? So this is my story. Not so very long ago, well, maybe about 30 years ago, when I was in my early 20s, I had this whole thing, like I really had this need to like prove myself and to be able to look good to other people and to be accepted, right? And part of the reason that I felt that way is because I'm naturally very introverted. Like I spent my childhood, like who I was born to be was this very magically introverted child who could amuse herself for hours and hours just playing in her imagination, right? But my grandmother was like, you know, my grandma would watch me in the afternoons while my mom was at work, and my grandma was like a little concerned that I didn't really seem to have many friends, right? So my grandmother was always encouraging me to go play with the other kids in the neighborhood, right? And she used to bribe me. She would pay me a quarter, which back in the day, that was big money. She would pay me a quarter to go outside for 15 minutes. But I outsmarted her because I would go stand outside the kitchen window and look at the clock ticking down 15 minutes. And then as soon as my time was up, I'd go back in and retrieve my quarter and walk around the corner to Nafe's little corner store and get myself some candy. So the reason I'm telling you this is because I was always very introverted by nature, right? But then I realized that in order to fit in with the other kids, I had to like work on my personality. And so I actually ended up creating a personality that was very outgoing and very likable and very easily made friends. But that is not my natural way of being. And so I had this pretend way of being that created this pretend way of communicating with people that was very topical and light. And it made me, you know, it gave me the feelings of I wanted people to like me and I wanted to feel like I belonged and I wanted to feel like I fit in. So if something was uncomfortable, I might not just say it. I might just throw it away, keep it to myself, right? But that doesn't really create close, intimate, connected relationships. What creates close, intimate, connected relationships is letting people see into you and be able to really feel what you're feeling in your heart and in your soul and in your truth, right? So part of my healing process over the years has been all about allowing myself to just accept I'm an incredibly introverted person and it's kind of my superpower, right? So now that I've just accepted that I am more on the introverted side and that that's okay, it's really interesting because it allows me to just open my big, sweet, gentle heart and let people in and show them my truth and speak my truth, you know. And it's funny because people who are in my life these days, one of the things they say about me is, the thing I love most about you is I always know exactly where you're at. You know, it's funny, when I had my holistic wellness center, my employees would walk in and like they could tell just by the look on my face to either approach me and get a hug or to just gently say hello and get away from me, right? Like, so if I was working on like accounting stuff, which was always so incredibly frustrating for me, they'd walk in and I just look at them and go, run. Right? Because they knew, oh my God, she's so frustrated and she doesn't want to get her funky energy on me, right? But there's a beauty in that. There's a beauty in that authenticity because it makes people feel really safe, right? They know where you're at. You know, my mom used to say when I was a teeny little girl, my mom used to say, I love how you always wear your heart right on your sleeve where everyone can see it. Right. And I think that that's just a beautiful, beautiful place to live. And during this 9 to 10 day period, we all have the opportunity to connect into who we really are and get all of that phony baloney stuff that we've made up as ways of protecting ourselves, right? We get to get rid of all of that phony baloney stuff and just get back to our true authentic nature and express that love and light in our own unique and beautiful ways. Now, people who are not really on a very spiritual path might struggle over the next 9 to 10 days, right? Because the planets are aligned for us to be doing this work. And we can either let the soul lead us in to do this work, or we can try to resist it. But if we try to resist it, we might just get clobbered over the head with people screaming at us, or us feeling so frustrated we want to scream, or big fights with people who we're close to, right? Like, because it's an opportunity for us to look at how we're communicating and see if we're communicating our authentic truth from a place of love and peace and enlightenment. And if we're not, we're going to have many, many opportunities to put in correction. And sometimes the only way to see that we need to put in correction is by experience something yucky that we totally never want to experience again, right? You know, they call it rock bottom, right? Sometimes we have to hit rock bottom to realize that up is the way to go, right? You know, up into our spiritual ascension. So I just wanted to share a little bit of this love and knowledge with you in the hopes that it will support you on your path over the next 9 or 10 days as we work through these 7 planets being retrograde and really get to make the most of it. And if you need support along the way, please feel free to reach out. I'm here to support you with one-on-one sessions. If you go to my website, which is simply my name, kellyackroyd.com. And when you go into the website, you'll see up in the menu, it'll say schedule now. And if you feel like you really need support, schedule a holistic therapy session. I offer sessions for individuals as well as for families. So like if you and your spouse or your loved ones are having a hard time communicating and you really want to like just dive in and be able to figure out, how do we fix this? You know, I would love to support you on your journey. So with that said, I hope this has been helpful. Please leave some comments below about, how you're doing with this Mercury retrograde, what you're learning, what you're mastering in your communication style. And I will look forward to reading through the comments and connecting with you. Thanks so much. Have a miraculous week, and I will look forward to seeing you again soon.